What's up, people? You're listening and watching the Raps Talk podcast presented by HipHoopJunkies.com and HoopsHeadsNorth.com. Hoops Talk out of Halifax. This is episode 83. My name is Romy Kino. I have with me
Jean-Francois
and
Yui Sempang.
What's up, guys? How's everything going?
It's been good. Basketball.
Yeah, definitely. Let's jump right into it. Toronto Raptors. Kyle Lowry was named Player of the Week, announced this week, along with Steph Curry. He's been phenomenal as of late. What were your guys' thoughts about Kyle Lowry and what he's done this past month?
Well, I mean, he's just been incredible. He's been a true floor general, a leader. He's been able to take the team to some new heights, along with DeMar DeRozan, obviously. But he's just been that go-to player that the Raptors have been able to rely upon. Hits big shots, creates some key turnovers when needed. He's a high-energy guy, so he gets the team kind of, to follow him in that regard. His play's just been very commendable, and he's let his play speak. He's let his play speak for itself, really, and kind of capped it all off with his effort this past Friday night against the Cavaliers.
Yeah, Cleveland, big win against the Cavaliers, 99-97. But yeah, Lowry wasn't afraid to take the Raptors on his back and just kind of like he led the team to a victory. I mean, not all on his own, but he took a big share of that workload. That game itself, Cleveland and Toronto. Let's talk about that. Kyle Lowry with the 43 points, a career high, to help them beat the Eastern Conference leading Cleveland Cavaliers. What worked for them? What did they do right to defeat Cleveland?
I mean, for me, it was the fact that they realized that DeMar and Corey Joseph were under the weather, and DeMar took it upon himself to, attack and be relentless against the opposing point guards. He did a number on Kyrie Irving and Matthew Dellavedova. Like, those guys didn't stand a chance against Kyrie. On top of that, you had players like JV and Patrick Patterson who played very well and really helped set screens, get Kyle open and get him some good looks. And, of course, Kyle was making those shots. On the top of that, Kyle had 9 assists, 5 rebounds, and 4 steals that game. So it wasn't just the points. He was doing literally everything. But then you had, like I mentioned, with the bigs playing some key roles and playing some really good minutes for the Raptors, that just made sure that the Raptors were in the game the whole way. They never really flinched. When they needed to kind of make that comeback in the fourth quarter, they started to put the baskets together and put that run together, and they got things done.
He had a nice face at the end there too. When DeMar came up and hugged him, DeMar came up and hugged him with relief, and he was just like, "Yeah, this is supposed to happen."
Right. Like, I got this, man. Loved it.
Yeah, no, definitely good. It was definitely fun to watch.
Half mean mug, half confidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Lowry was hoping that he didn't infect him with the flu, though. He got pretty close. Definitely a statement win, though, for the Toronto Raptors, just to kind of prove that they're capable of defeating a team like Cleveland. It'd be another question to see if it came down to a 7-game series, if Toronto would be able to defeat LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. But I mean, what are your guys' thoughts? Like, what does this game mean in terms of future playoff matchups?
Well, to me, I mean, it's a nice litmus test to kind of be able to gauge yourself against the current elite teams in your conference. But that said, we all know that the Raptors haven't got out of the first round the past 2 years. and they were embarrassed last year. So let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. And the ultimate goal for the Raptors right now is getting out of the first round. Like, just take it one game at a time and one goal at a time, and get the job done. Get a good seeding, and get home court advantage and make it work this time, unlike a couple years ago against the Nets, and get out of the first round. And not 7 games. Get out of the first round in like 5 games, 4 games, 5 games, 6 games at most. You don't want to tire your players out in the 7-game first-round series and then have to face whoever you're going to have to face in the second round for another grueling matchup. Get the job done and get it done in a decent amount of time so that you can be in a good situation for the second round. But ultimately, that's, to me, the Raptors still have to prove themselves. So this success is great. They're trending well. The focus on the defensive end of the floor is there again. But getting out of the first round is the utmost priority.
Yeah, I was just wondering, what was your guys' thoughts on, okay, they just beat the Cleveland Cavaliers, and early in the day on Sunday, LeBron sits out, and they lose. And then all of a sudden, Kyle's sitting out. And I was wondering, should he be sitting out? Can they gain a game in this situation? But then I thought about it a little more, and yeah, he put up 43, and it was a hard-fought game, but he still looked fresh at the end, anything like that. But then, am I as a fan putting the cart in front of the horse by thinking they can get the number 1 seed on Cleveland before even like trying to get out of the first round of the playoffs?
Right.
So
I like that mentality, because I was thinking the same way. Like when I found out that LeBron was out, and then the Cavs lost, I was like, perfect opportunity to seize on this. But then we found out that Lowry was going to sit too, so I was like, maybe an opportunity lost there. Then the Raptors ended up losing the game. But that said, DeMar and Corey were both still ill, just kind of coming off the flu, and you did need to find time for Lowry to rest, because he just plays so many minutes. Even we'll get into the game from last night, but he played 41 minutes last night too, right? So no matter when he's on the floor, he's going to play, and they're going to play him a lot of minutes. So I think it was good that they rested him, but it might have been an opportunity lost, but I think there will be some opportunities down the stretch here where the Cavs will be resting some of their guys. The Raptors coaching staff have said maybe they may rest DeMar some more. They may rest Kyle some more. So we'll just have to watch and see kind of how it goes. Ultimately, I think that they just want to make sure that they've got their guys healthy for the playoffs, regardless of who they match up against. But yes, Huey, the fan and me wanted that to happen, but I understand the other side.
It's getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. But and then I was just thinking on that note, like, what would you guys consider a playoff success and a playoff failure at this stage, based on like what we've seen?
Playoff failure at this point to me is not getting to the conference finals.
Yeah, like, is there any asterisks there? Like, because all of a sudden, man, when I saw Joe Johnson put up 20-something with Miami, I was like, oh, man. And then if Bosh comes back, Derrick Rose is starting to get healthy. If Jimmy Butler and the boys and Dunleavy's coming back for the Bulls, the Bulls get healthy at the right time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's all about timing, especially when it comes down to the end of the season and kind of who's hot and who's healthy and where your team is at that point. It doesn't really matter where you were. I mean, the first 60, 70 games, I mean, last 10 games you get hot, I mean, walk into the playoffs and your team's healthy or you lose somebody. I mean, that has a big impact on where your team falls.
And last year, the last 10 games, team gets cold and then they get swept.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was RAPS.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, we talked about the Detroit game, but we can touch on that too. Like, such a big statement win for against Cleveland, and then they went to Detroit to play Huey's Detroit Pistons, and kind of put up a stinker, 114-101, but it wasn't even really that close. throughout the whole game. Andre Drummond, 15 points, 18 boards. What was it? Was it Detroit kind of fired up that they didn't have Kyle Lowry?
Oh, yeah, I guarantee that the Pistons used that as some bulletin board material, and the Raptors just didn't bring the effort that they needed to. They did have, legitimately, they did have two guys who were coming off the flu, so that didn't help matters either. And then you have one of your two All-Stars not even playing the game, so you've got one of your two best players out, and two of your next best players, including an All-Star, under the weather. They just didn't do what they needed to do out there, and unfortunately for the Raptors, the Pistons definitely took advantage of that and brought their A game.
Huey, what are your thoughts about that game? Your Detroit Pistons and your Toronto Raptors.
Me, you know what? The turning point right here, just because I'm just not the biggest Reggie Jackson fan. I like Drummond and some of the pieces that they have, but I think I'm more of a Raptors fan these days than I am a Pistons fan. And looking back, I'm just looking back on it, the fact that they traded initially, it was Brandon Jennings. They got Brandon Jennings for Chris Middleton, and who was the other one? Oh, and Brandon Knight. So they could have had Chris Middleton and Brandon Knight, and they used Jennings. Like, they could have Chris Middleton and Brandon Knight in place of Tobias Harris right now, and they would still,
What could have been?
Yeah, like the mistakes that they made and end up being Reggie Jackson. Like, I mean, he is a solid player, but he's just indecisive at times, and I don't like the decisions that he makes at times. And yeah, it's a Pistons podcast. But yeah, they got the win, but I mean, win without the Raptors, arguably best player, so, and two guys recovering from the flu. So I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the lone bright spot from that game against the Pistons was Terrence Ross. He had 27 points. 27.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean that was a nice spark for him.
That's that Amber Rose effect, man.
Yeah, I guess that's what it is. But yeah, I mean he's been. I mean when he can get hot, he can get hot, and especially when he gets the right shots. Because he's hit the spot up three. So I mean that was one of those nights. But I mean you want to see somebody kind of step up in Lowry's absence. You got to see Corey Joseph, but he got into foul trouble early, and then we got to see some DeLon Wright. He got some minutes, so that was nice to see that he got like 30+ minutes, and it was a lot of garbage time, but still you got to see what he's capable of. So I mean he looks to be solid. I mean obviously he's going to do some developing in the D League, but it's good to know that you have that guy kind of sitting at the end of your bench. So in between this game and the last night's game, the Raptors picked up Jason Thompson, and formerly of the Golden State Warriors, and waived Anthony Bennett. Kind of a sad story. I mean, not a sad story, but like.
Oh, it is really.
Yeah, Anthony Bennett, a #1 pick, and now, I mean, it was an opportunity for him to kind of make his mark with the Raptors, but it just didn't work out. I don't think the minutes were there for him in the first place. So then we just kind of see him kind of just fall off and then go to another team. But what was your thought of like those two moves together, picking up Thompson and letting go Bennett?
I mean, I think the pickup of Thompson is a good move because he's a versatile player. He's an 8-year NBA veteran. He plays the power forward and the center position. When he was at the Sacramento Kings prior to where he spent the majority of his career prior to his time in Golden State this year, he really did some really good things there, and he's a very efficient player. He's never averaged really like under kind of like 7-8 rebounds per game, and right around that like 7-8 10 point per game mark too. So definitely a solid role player. He's got a nice mid-range jumper as well. And with the Raptors right now, with DeMar Carroll out, it gives you some depth at that power forward position. If, say, Scola or Patrick Patterson don't kind of have it going, then you can bring him in. It gives you the opportunity to play different matchups if you need to bring a couple of bigs in, but guys who have got a little bit more of a scoring ability. So you maybe times where you want to bring in like Bebe along with like Bismack, or Bebe alongside like Jonas. That probably doesn't work as well because technically those guys are all pure centers. Whereas if you can bring Thompson in, then that gives you another guy who's got that same kind of length, who knows how to play the 4, but can also play the 5, and like JV, gives you, a little bit of scoring punch too. So I thought it was a good, flexible, quality pickup. Jason Thompson's also played with James Johnson and Patrick Patterson previously, so there's some continuity and familiarity there as well. So I thought it was a good pickup for the Raptors, a good decision down the stretch. Like you said, Romy, unfortunate regarding AB, Anthony Bennett, but like you said, the time just wasn't there. He had some injuries, but he could have had potentially some more minutes in the D League with the Raptors 905 team. So it's just unfortunate. Hopefully he gets picked up by a team that will give him solid minutes. If he doesn't end up having to go overseas to play, if he can stay in the NBA, I just hope that he goes to a team where he can play. It doesn't have to be, like a contender. I just want him to be able to go to a team where he's going to get minutes, because he played excellent basketball in the Pan Am Games and in the FIBA Americas this past summer. So I would have loved to have seen him build on that this year, but just the minutes weren't there, like you said.
Yeah, it takes special player or whatever to get used to coming off the bench and being able to produce right away. So then, like, after he had those good performances in international ball during the year, where he was getting regular time in those games, right?
Yeah.
But then once the season started, I thought maybe Dwayne Casey was watching, and that might parlay into some extra minutes at the beginning of the season, some extra looks. But then he never got any time, and I don't know, when you think about a player, a lot of it has to do with confidence too. And I think not seeing that time, might have taken a toll on his confidence. And then when he finally did get the chance, guys like James Johnson were coming in, and those guys are ready and able to be professional and come in and make use of the time they're given. And AB was chucking up air balls. It was rough. Like, just going from watching what he did in international ball to seeing how terrible he was in the limited time that he got. I mean, it's not totally his fault, but hopefully, he will get that opportunity somewhere. There was possible interest from Phoenix, which would be kind of cool, like they don't have a chance anywhere, but to have those games under his belt in NBA in a regular season, if he could, latch on with them and get some meaningful minutes for last whatever games, that would be nice. But yeah, he's got to go somewhere where he can just rebuild his confidence, because it doesn't look like it's there.
Yeah, he needs to be. Yeah, like you're saying, like with Phoenix, he needs to be on a team that is kind of like rebuilding, or kind of a garbage team, I guess, like that where he can it's in Philly or something, where he can get some minutes, where there's going to be a good rotation of minutes for him, and like you said, gain that confidence, because you'd hate to see him. I mean, as much as it might be better for him to go overseas and then come back in a few years, but it'd be nice to see him stay in the league at least and get back going. So last night's game against the Utah Jazz, 104-94. It was the DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry show, as Sean coins them, the McFlurry brothers. They combined for 63 points. Yeah, so those guys kind of led the way. I mean, Utah kind of had a jump on them in the first half, and then the Raptors went on a run. They brought in Baby Nogueira, and he helped spark some of that run in the first half. So and then they were able to hold them off 104-94. Sean, you got anything on this game? I know you might have some stats for about the kid
Yeah.
here.
The first one is not even a stat; it's just more of a acknowledgement or a mention, and not in a good way, unfortunately. James Johnson, maybe one of the worst games I've seen from him in quite some time. Gordon Hayward just made him look,
Lit him up.
like a secondary level player. He just took it to him, especially in that first quarter. Gordon Hayward had 13 points early, was shot like 6 of 9. Kind of had his way with the Raptors and with James Johnson early on, which is surprising because James Johnson is a good defender. But that didn't work out too well. But then, like you said, Bebe Nogueira came in and helped give the Raptors a bit of a spark. And he played well against Rudy Gobert down low and in the middle. And then from there, really, especially in the second quarter, the Raptors played a lot better offensively. And then the third quarter, they kind of took over. And Kyle Lowry had 3 steals in the game, and he had all 3 steals in that game. In that quarter, rather. And it was just nice to see the spark, and they got back to it offensively. I think they had 33 points in that quarter. They had like 13 fast break points as well. So they were just really got off to a good start to start the second half, and they were able to carry it all the way through for the rest of the game.
11th straight home win for the Raptors, which is a franchise record as well. So shout outs to those guys. And
they're 32-3 this season when holding teams to under 100 points.
Yeah, I know that's always been a thing that they always, like Devlin and those guys always pay attention to about that 100-point mark. And they kind of stay true to that. So that's good to see. So the Raptors are now, what's the record here? Let me bring it up. You guys have it?
Yeah, 39-19.
Is it 40?
49. Yeah, I think it's the 40th.
Yeah, 40.
So they have their 40th win.
Last night made the 40th win. Okay.
Yeah, the last night was the 40th win. So they sit second in the East, and Cleveland is 42-17. So they're definitely in the mix for that 1-2 seed. Anything else from those kind of last 3 games that you guys wanted to bring up?
Patrick Patterson, even though his numbers offensively, haven't really jumped out at you, he's getting a lot of minutes, and he's been consistently near the top on the team in plus-minus. So the stuff he's doing on the court is having a positive impact, and it's the stuff that just doesn't show up on the stat sheet, whether it's like setting screens or working hard for that extra rebound. Keeping his man from really being able to do a whole lot with the ball when he has it. Help defense, all that kind of stuff is making a difference for the Raptors, and he's definitely been an unsung hero through the recent success that the team has had. Even though his numbers statistically haven't been as strong as they were last year. From just a stat stuffing perspective, he's doing some impressive stuff out there, and that's a big reason why he's being able to stay on the court. So that's been impressive to see what he's been able to contribute despite not getting a lot of looks offensively.
Yeah, it could have been one of the reasons too why Masai didn't move him at the deadline, because it's probably one of those pieces that you kind of don't want to mess with that chemistry, especially with that second unit. So I think probably, the offer that any offers probably Masai had probably didn't want to part with Patterson for whatever he was getting in return. So my next question is, especially with that last game where Lowry and DeRozan scored 30 apiece, who's your third option? Who has to step up? Like, if you take one of those guys out of the picture, you don't have Lowry or you don't have DeRozan, say if they go down with injury, who's going to be kind of like that third guy that's going to kind of put the Raptors over the top?
Corey Joseph, in my opinion.
JV, in my opinion, got to balance the inside-outside, and he's showing that he can score efficiently down there.
Yep. As long as they continue to give him the ball.
Yeah.
Right. because we've seen that before where he gets the hot hand early and he's like 4 of 4 early to start the game, and like maybe even in the first quarter he's got like 8-10 points, and then they go away from him. It's like, why? Like, give the big man the ball if he's scoring, like, until he stops scoring. Like, keep giving it to him. So I completely agree with you from that perspective, Yui. Hopefully, if they ever got into a situation like that, that they would be able to, realize that and just, keep giving the big man some opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many of you guys listen to the Jalen Jacoby podcast, but I remember...
I listened to it on ESPN Radio on XM.
Yeah, there was one show where I think Jalen Rose was talking to Larry Bird, and Larry Bird was basically saying you need like 3 guys to be a championship contender, and they were kind of running through the teams of, like, I mean, obviously with Golden State, you got Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson, and then you're looking at the third guy for each team, and obviously Toronto, you have Kyle and DeMar, but like, who is that third guy? And that's kind of what I was wondering who you guys thought would be that third guy, and are they missing somebody that can be that third guy to put them to be a championship contender?
I mean, they have DeMar Carroll hopefully coming back at some point by the end of the season or early playoffs. But, even when he was with Atlanta, he was kind of a spot-up shooter, got his looks by, just ball movement, and was a very good defensive player. So, the verdict is still out there, with regards to what he may be able to contribute offensively. But I do think that Jonas or Corey would be the two players I would expect to pick up the slack if needed.
But yeah, there's a lot of X factors on this team, man. Like, because Patterson, if he can regularly hit that outside stretching 3, that's going to be huge for being able to keep defenses honest on Lowry and DeRozan. And same thing with T. Ross, like the stretch of confidence that he's having. I keep on saying, you know how in boxing and UFC they say, "and the new." I do that now with T. Ross, because every time he looks to shoot, it looks like the new T. Ross. Looks like a completely different player when he steps into that shot and takes it. Like, he just looks so much more confident. But if he hits a little cold streak, is he gonna become timid again? You just don't know with the middle of this roster.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I think he's more of an X factor as opposed to, if you get production from him, great, but not someone that I am expecting to see consistently put up the points just because we haven't seen it before. If what he's been doing over the past, 5-6 games continues, then that's great news for the Raptors. But I don't. I'm not expecting to see that
from Terrence Ross.
Yeah, I mean, even go further than that. Like, even the beginning of January, like, this stretch has been the most promising that we've ever seen from him, and it makes me think, is this what he can be going forward, or is he going to go back to the old T. Ross?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you're right. He has had some games earlier than that he's played really well. But this past couple weeks has really stood out to me.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, like, probably last year, going into last season, you would have thought that he would be stepping in that direction to be the third option on the Raptors, but then he kind of just fell off last season.
We lost our expectations went down.
Exactly, yeah. So, I mean, I think that's what we had thought, that he would kind of develop into that guy, but it just doesn't seem to be the case this season. But I mean, time will tell. I mean, it's just a matter of who can kind of create their own shot with this team. And I think right now it's just in terms of a third option, it's kind of like it can be one guy one game and another guy another game. But I mean, time will tell, and we'll see how this team does in the playoffs and see where they go. So, Sean, you got the schedule up for upcoming?
Yeah,
7-game homestand, right? So.
Yeah, we got 6 games left on this homestand. So that's great news for the Raptors based on how well they did the last time they had a 7-game homestand. But Friday night, Portland Trail Blazers are in town, who dropped a tough game to the Boston Celtics last night. So that will be a tough matchup. Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum are the second highest scoring backcourt in the NBA. And funny enough, the Raptors, Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan are third. So that will be a great backcourt matchup. Then on Sunday, the Raptors host the Houston Rockets. So that's another huge test. Then Tuesday, March 8th, the Brooklyn Nets will be in town. Then Thursday, the Atlanta Hawks will be in town. And then Saturday, March 12th, that's the return of, well, maybe anyway, because we'll see if he's back by then, which he probably won't be. It was about to say the return of Chris Bosh, but he most likely won't be playing at that point. But the Miami Heat, Dwayne Wade, Luol Deng, Hassan Whiteside will be in town. And then to finish the home stand on Monday, March 14th, the Chicago Bulls will be in Toronto. And talk is that Jimmy Butler may be back in the lineup this weekend. So if there's no setbacks, there's a good chance that Jimmy Butler will be back in the lineup by the time and have a couple games under his belt by the time that the Bulls face the Raptors to close the Raptors homestand. So some big tests. I mean, they're all playoff. All teams that are playoff teams are in the hunt except for the Brooklyn Nets. So
no back-to-backs in that set.
One day in between. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely a good opportunity for the Raptors to take advantage. I mean, obviously not easy teams, and I mean that Bulls game could be a possible first round matchup. I mean, depending where the Bulls, where the Bulls finish off and where the Raptors finish off. But yeah, so we'll see how that goes. Winningtons of the week. You guys want to shout out any Canadians? No one's been kind of standing out to me that I can think off the top of my head.
No, I just like the fact that we're just continuing to see the growth of Canadian players. Unfortunately, it was unfortunate that Anthony Bennett ended up being waived this week, but the Raptors did see Trey Lyles last night with the Utah Jazz and didn't have many points. He only had 6 points in the game, but had a few rebounds, had a couple block shots. So it's just nice to see Canadian players in general getting opportunities and putting the country on the map within the NBA. So I just love that, just the growth of the game in general.
Yeah, I didn't even realize Trey Lyles was getting some minutes with the Jazz.
Yeah, he had 20, 25, 26 minutes last night.
Yeah, I know Dwight Powell too. I know he had. I saw some ridiculous highlight he had of a slam. He threw it down. He almost fell. He fell over, I think, but it was pretty ridiculous. But yeah, he's getting. It was against the Wolves actually. Dwight Powell.
Nice guy, getting good run with the Dallas Mavericks.
Yep, for sure. Toronto natives. So that's it for the podcast. This is episode 83. Make sure you stay tuned to the blogs, hiphoopjunkies.com and hoopheadsnorth.com. On Twitter at Romy Aquino, at Sean Francois, and also at hoopheadsnorth, and at Yui the Jock for Yui. So that's it for this episode. We out.
Peace.